Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of those in the audience joining us from all over the world. My name is Gavin. I'm the marketing manager here at Impro Technologies, and I'm joined by my co-hosts today, Hamish, who's our product manager, and Raphael, our product director. We've got an exciting discussion ahead of us this afternoon, and we're going to go through some of the headline features of the latest release of Primo version 2026.2. We've got some poll questions going out on the live stream that you guys can answer as the call goes, and feel free to ask any questions that you have on the Q&A. Hamish, before we go into the discussion around Primo version 2026.2, I couldn't help but notice some of these readers that are behind us on the counter. They really are some good-looking readers, and these are our latest Primo readers. Am I correct?
That's right, Gavin. So you can see, as you say, you can see some of them behind us, and I've got a couple of them in front of me as well. So this is the new range of readers from Primo, and the intention for the range is basically to eventually take over from all the other readers that we currently have on our price list.
So let's have a look at a bit of the market trends that we're seeing at the moment, and we seem to be seeing quite a shift from your traditional physical cards and tags to mobile credentials. Is this a fair assumption, and how has this impacted the design thinking behind the development of this range of readers?
Yeah, Gavin, I'm glad you mentioned that because, well, I have to look no further than my daughters at home to see what the attitude of the newer generations is to mobile devices. For my daughters, there's no doubt that they are an essential device, and they are quite happy to carry them around with them wherever they go. They will also notice when that goes missing, and they're not likely to share it with anyone. So just making a case briefly for mobile credentials, obviously the mobile device is becoming pretty essential. On top of that, you're saving the planet from another piece of plastic. You can have all of your keys essentially on this one mobile device, so instead of having keys for your home, your garage, your place of work, your gym, etc., you have all of them on this one mobile device, and it's much more convenient. But maybe one of the nicest features about mobile technology is the ability to enroll remotely. So you can, so that it just takes away that hassle of in-person enrollment,
I mean, that convenience factor is really a nice selling point. Perhaps if we have a quick look at the actual readers themselves, the physical look and feel, there's a whole host of different colors, and they really do look good. I think long gone are the days where you put an ugly but functional reader up on your wall. The aesthetics are good. I'm fairly sure that your architects and the likes would be happy with the design. I mean, is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, actually, it is sort of one of the central points of designing these readers. So we've considered a few things. So for architects, it's about the aesthetics. For developers, it's about sweating that asset. And for partners, it's about flexibility and margin. For end users, it's about having the choice of mobile credential brand or type that you want to make use of. So these readers bring all of those elements together. From an aesthetics point of view, we've gone for a clean, minimalist design with premium finishes suitable for a modern building. So I think that that these readers, instead of being just another functional box on the wall, are really now can be part of the design language or architectural language of the building.
Sure. So they look good, and I'm sure the audience will agree with that. But are they robust? Are they going to kind of hold up in conditions? I know in South Africa we've got some quite extreme weather conditions, harsh environments. How well are they going to perform in the long term?
Yeah, so these readers are all IP65 rated or better. So that gives you protection against rain, dust, and salt air, and that kind of thing. And then the harsh environment variant of the reader, which is this bicycle bell variant, is also IK10 rated for high impact areas. And so we actually drove a 5-ton forklift over that reader just to test it, and we're happy to say that the reader and the forklift came away unscathed.
I'm sure our warehouse department was quite happy that you didn't break their forklift. If we can get a little bit more technical for a minute, I know a lot of our system integrators and installers are tuning in this afternoon. In terms of the credential technologies that these readers support and how they connect to controllers, are we looking at OSTP based, or how do they work?
Yeah, so all of the readers in the range support both Wiegand and OSTP. So that means that you can connect to these readers to your Wiegand controllers today, and then in the future, when you're ready to embrace the more secure OSTP technology, the readers remain installed, and it's just the controllers that need to be updated. And then in terms of the tag technology supported, our intention is for this range of readers to basically take over from everything that we've had up until now, eventually. So what that means is that we have designed in support for pretty much all of the credentials types that our legacy readers currently support. And that goes from 125 kilohertz EMM right through to the most secure HRD, CIOS, and MAFE, DESFA credential types.
Okay. I know a lot of our audience, we've got quite a big existing customer base running on Access Portal. Will these readers still be supported on Access Portal, or is it only for Primo?
No, absolutely. But as you say, so many of our customers are still using Access Portal. And so absolutely, these readers are supported on both Primo and Access Portal. And so you can install them on your Access Portal site today. And when you're ready to upgrade to Primo, there is no hardware sort of left behind. There's a smooth migration path, and you get longevity of that asset. So you get the developers getting to sweat that asset and get the most out of it. You've got channel partners with an upsell opportunity, and then you've also got your architects getting consistency of design language.
It's good to know. Let's talk a little bit about mobile. These readers are a bit of a game changer in terms of what mobile technology they support. But not only that, I believe we've got quite a clever licensing model behind these readers.
Yeah, glad you brought that up. So obviously, a key feature on the readers is their mobile capability. And so they support both BLE and NFC mobile credentials. And we also support 2 brands of mobile credential, that being HRD and STID. And by virtue of those 2 brands, we also support 2 different purchasing models. So you've got the 3-year subscription model with HRD, and then you've got the perpetual model with STID. I also want to point out that these readers are intended to cover all the needs that our customers have. So they're not just mobile readers, and that's an important thing to stress, is that they are absolutely, intended to be used for physical credentials as well. And to that end, what we've done is we are able to supply these readers as mobile-ready readers or as mobile-enabled readers out of the factory. So if you want your mobile-enabled readers, you buy those, that's fine. And they come licensed to read mobile credentials. But if you want mobile-ready devices for now, or maybe you want to use them as a tag reader, that's how you want to use them, then they're very attractively priced as mobile-ready readers. Then I just want to so once they're out in the market, let's say you've installed them in the field as mobile-ready readers, then you decide that you'd like to convert some of them or all of them to mobile technology with a licensing model. We can license those readers to support mobile in the field.
So if I was a distributor or a reseller of Impro products and I wanted to purchase some stock, I could purchase them as a kind of just a raw reader at a lower price point.
Yeah.
And then if I have a customer that wants to buy a reader that supports and is supplied with mobile credentials, I can just license that portion.
Absolutely. You've highlighted a real benefit in terms of warehousing and for distributors, being able to reduce the cost of that stock until, at the point of sale, somebody decides they want mobile, and then that's when you do that switch.
And I believe if you do choose the option of going with one of the service providers, either STID or HID, I believe the readers do come bundled with some licenses, mobile licenses.
Yeah, so just to clarify on that point, you can choose to purchase well, let's say you've got end customers that already have a mobile account with HID or a mobile account with STID, then we can support those customers. But it would be more beneficial for all other customers, not to go that route, but to instead purchase their mobile credentials through Impro and become part of the Impro ecosystem. And so that has a few benefits, one being the one that you mentioned, that every sale of Primo readers within the Impro ecosystem, ready to read Impro mobile credentials, come bundled with 5 free mobile credentials.
That's good to know. So, I mean, we're really offering the guys a lot of flexibility in terms of how they want to go to market with these readers.
Absolutely.
So we've got a short video to show you guys. You might not be able to see the readers behind us. The little video that we're going to play, well, you can have a look and see what those readers look like. Great product. Let's change gears a little bit and let's talk a bit about a question that we quite often get asked from our customers is, how does the Impro pricing model actually work? And why are there so many options that are available? So Raphael's going to join us and we're going to unpack the different pricing models that we've got in terms of how to license the product. Raphael, firstly, why have we got so many options available? I know traditionally our customer base is used to the sort of on-prem once-off license purchase, but we've introduced quite a lot of different options over the year. What's that about?
Well, I think you just mentioned in the previous segment with Hamish, I think you used the word flexibility. And that's essentially what we're trying to do here. There's a number of use cases that our customers have. And so we're trying to offer as much optionality when it comes to the commercialization of our products. And so we've decided that we're going to offer Primo both as on-prem, as self-hosted, and we're also offering an option where Impro does the hosting on the cloud, which we've called Primo Live.
So if we start off with the on-prem, the sort of the more traditional licensing, I believe we've added an option where you can actually do an annual subscription. How does this differ to the perpetual license that we traditionally used to?
Okay, so just to kind of reiterate the value proposition of perhaps on-prem, and the perpetual license scheme. Typically those kind of customers are wanting to do a once-off install and configuration, and then kind of leave it to the client and kind of walk off site. And that's still very much available to customers. When they buy a perpetual license for Primo, they get the major version, so say 2026 version, and then they get all of the minor updates to that major version included as part of their purchase. So if you had bought 2026.1, you'll be getting this new update as part of that purchase. And then we've introduced a subscription-based or a license-based scheme that allows you access to the software for 12 months. And that's more focused for those who are developing relationships with end customers, where they've got SLA agreements and where they're having to show value. And so that license scheme allows them to provide updates, whether they're minor or major, during that 12-month period. So it's for those customers who are wanting to show new updates, new features, new integrations, and not wanting the commercialization of that to be a stumbling block for the customer, where they're having to ask for a PO for each new integration. They're able to deliver that quite easily.
If I had chosen a perpetual license up front, and perhaps a year or two has gone by, and I see there's some new features that I want to have access to, would I need to buy a brand new full license, or is there an upgrade path for me to get to those new features?
That's a very good question. So obviously we're forever trying to entice our customers to move with us along the journey of Primo. So if you're part of the Impro ecosystem, we'll always provide an incentivized discount to move to the latest version. So in that case, there's always the way to move forward and not be penalized in any way.
Okay. So let's move on to our cloud offerings. If we start off with self-hosted, who are we targeting with a self-hosted environment?
Okay, so with the self-hosted, I think we're looking for customers who have a bit of know-how when it comes to cloud. They probably already have the infrastructure, and they probably have the internal capabilities to manage a cloud solution. So typically they would have their own RDS database server. They would have cloud instances on which they're already running software, and they would add Primo to that internal infrastructure. So that's generally who you're looking at purchasing the self-hosted solution, are guys who are experienced in cloud and are just needing the access control capability put onto that infrastructure.
Okay. So would I be right in assuming it would be typically some of the bigger corporates where their sort of security policy dictates that they're not allowed to host anything offsite, but they still want to have access and access the features of a cloud type access control system?
That would be the primary audience, if you like. But there's also a number of installers and system integrators who have got the capabilities themselves and would like to be able to offer this as part of their SLA to customers. So not only do they want to provide the access control element, but they also want to provide hosting as part of their offering. So we provide a mechanism by which they can do that.
Okay. So that brings us to Primo Live, which is the Impro hosted cloud environment. We're seeing quite a lot of interest in this. How's this developing, and what does the future look like for cloud-based access control?
Yeah, I think everybody can relate to the need for cloud. I mean, you have certain circumstances that have always come up, for example, where you have an installer or system integrator that's managing multiple different systems or sites. Perhaps they're responsible for a whole lot of housing complexes, where they typically have to go and do repairs or have to onboard new residents. It's incredibly costly thing to do, having to drive to all of these complexes or estates, particularly now when the petrol price goes up. So what you want to be able to do is manage as much of that as you can remotely, without having the burden of having to worry about updating, for example, in the on-prem use case, the hardware, the computers, keeping them updated with antivirus software, backing up the databases. There's a heck of a lot of extra admin that detracts from the core value that the installer and the integrator is supposed to provide. So in this instance with Primo Live, Impro takes away that burden and basically provides the access control and the hosting as a combined offering. So that's the key value, along with all the advantages of cloud.
And how does that affect the pricing model? How is this licensed?
So we've tried to keep this as transparent as we can. So whether you're buying Primo as a self-hosted or as Primo Live, the software fee is exactly the same. So it works on a 12-month license scheme. And when you look at the prices, you'll notice that there's no difference between the two. The essential difference is on the hosting side. And this is maybe something worth kind of noting. For those customers who have done their own hosting in the past, they'll know the costs involved in having a dedicated database server and these separate instances to support the clients. What we've tried to do is really provide an element of cost saving through economies of scale. So by being able to host a number of clients, we're able to reduce the cost per client and really provide, we feel, significant value from that perspective. So the way that we price the Primo Live is the Primo access control license fee and then an additional hosting fee. So I'm just going to unpack the hosting fee, if I may.
Yep.
The way that we've done it is based on the number of controllers you have connected to the cloud. And that gives you quite a bit of flexibility. So you can develop a system that's really efficient, where you have one effective master controller that talks back to the cloud, and all of the other door controllers are like slave controllers. That would be a very efficient way to structure your design, and that would result in a lower cost of hosting. Other architectures may require that you need more flexibility and you need to have a whole lot of controllers talking back to the cloud. If that's the case, then you'd obviously pay a fee per controller. But again, we've looked at the pricing and we provide you, with an incentivized discount, where the price per controller that you have connected comes down if you have more controllers talking to the cloud.
So it seems like we've catered for scaling and the bigger enterprise solutions. But if we look at the smaller systems, we might have a customer with 3 or 4 doors that they want to put on a cloud system. Do we cater for them as well? Because I can imagine it could be quite expensive if you only have a few doors that you want to put that controller and license it.
Yes. So when we talk about the connected controllers, those are very much for systems where they've got a number of doors connected to the controller. But if you have a use case where perhaps you've got lots of systems or lots of sites, but only a small number of doors at each one of those, then we have a scheme which is based on a price per door. So that kind of tailors that particular use case. And that's far more cost effective.
Okay. So, some of the audience have maybe listened to all of this and they're still a little bit uncertain about which option they should choose. Any advice that you can give them on how to choose the best option?
Yeah. So as we said earlier in our conversation, when it comes to on-prem, there's the 2 models. There's the outright purchase, which works for those who want to do their configuration, set up, and just walk away from the site. Then there's those who are trying to build relationships with the end customer and wanted to provide value. There, it makes sense to go with the 12-month license scheme, because you're able to keep that customer up to date with new reports, new integrations, new features. Then there's those who are a lot more advanced when it comes to their internal capabilities and their cloud journey. And they would then probably go with the Primo self-hosted element, because they've got the resources within their business to be doing the administration of the cloud and the monitoring of the cloud. And then lastly, there's those customers who need the benefits of cloud, being able to configure things remotely and manage things remotely. And then Primo Live is an obvious choice.
Thank you, Raphael. So in summary then, if we look at the different pricing options, we've got on-prem, which we can split up either as a perpetual once-off license or an annual subscription. And then we have the 2 cloud options, either self-hosted or Primo Live, which is the Impro hosted. I think it's about time that we can focus a little bit on the headline features of the next release of Primo. So we've got Hamish joining us again, and we're going to run through lift control. So I'm quite excited about lift control. I think it's quite a nice new feature. Why don't you walk us through what we've added?
Sure. But Gavin, just before I do that, I've just noticed a couple of questions coming through from our audience around the Primo Readers. So I just want to make 2 points.
Sure.
that on Access Portal, the Primo Readers are supported from version 6 onwards. And then the other thing that we've failed to mention is that one of the key benefits of the Primo Readers is the way that you configure them within the software. So just like all of the readers that our customers have become used to, you configure them through the software in the same way. So much more efficient than some of the other options out there. So you can basically do all configuration from a central point as opposed to having to go to different readers and configure them.
So it's all about that user experience.
Absolutely. So then, yeah, and then the other thing to mention as well is that you've got presets, in the software, so you can configure the behavior of your Primo Readers to behave in a particular way, a whole group of them at once,
And that just makes the installer's life so much easier.
Absolutely. So now back to your question on lift control. So yeah, we've got this new feature, lift control in Primo. It's exciting because it's a major feature and a major step towards bringing Primo up to the same feature parity as Access Portal. And in terms of what we support, basically, sort of residents or staff, walk into a lift car, present their badge at the reader, and the buttons for the floors they have access to light up, and they can make a selection. So that's the very basics. Then there's also support for visitors, so visitor access and getting up to the floor that they need to get to. We support multiple lift shafts in the same building, and aligned with that is being able to support selecting which floors the lift actually goes to. And then the other thing is that we also support below ground floors with this feature.
So lift control is not new to Impro. I mean, we had it with Access Portal. How does it differ on Primo?
Yeah, so on Primo, there's quite a few advantages over the implementation in Access Portal. So the first of which is the wizard configuration. So the wizard configuration gives the user one simple decision to make at a time and steps them through the process of configuring a lift. And in the background, it is auto-creating all of the configuration around that lift. And what that essentially does is two things. One, you don't have to have deep technical knowledge of lift control in order to set it up. And two, you can literally set up a lift in under a minute.
So it's just really streamlining the whole process for the installer.
Absolutely. So that's the first benefit. Then on top of that, it is an offline feature. So that means that if you disconnect it from the server, that's not a problem at all. The lift destination continues to work, and it's a more reliable solution. On top of that, we've also catered for the advanced installer who does have a lot of deep technical knowledge on lift control. So we've provided them with access to a lift control preset. And what that allows them to do is to modify the behavior of the lift and set things like door mode patterns. And so, for instance, a use case might be that they turn off access control to certain floors for a certain period. They unlock those floors for a certain period. Let's say you've got a shopping mall on the one floor and a restaurant on the other, and you want to, during business hours, you want to make those available. So yeah, so we've catered for the advanced user as well. And then, as I said, there's also another point I wanted to mention is that we have protected the resources that are used in the configuration of a lift. So what that means is that you can't inadvertently go and make use of a relay that is being used in lift control and repurpose it to drive a siren, and in so doing break your lift control. So we ring fence the resources used, and we make sure that those don't get interfered with. And then again, I just want to bring back to the point of being able to select floors. that your lift will stop at. And so that's a feature that we have in Primo, but not in the portal implementation. And what we found with research is that in the taller buildings, you typically have more than one lift shaft. And the way it's often configured is that you set the one of the lift shafts or one group of lift shafts to go between the ground floor and the upper floors of the building, let's say, and the other lift shafts to go between ground floor and the lower floors, and this ability to select which floors the lift stops at, allows you to implement that, and you end up with far more efficient lift operation.
Okay. So in terms of our following the model where we place the reader inside the lift cart rather than on the outside, is this done for security? It kind of ties in with what you're saying now about kind of isolating which floor that lift can stop at.
Yes. So Gavin, before I get into that, I just want to give a brief synopsis of how it would work for a resident or employee, and then how it works for visitors. So our lift control feature for an employee or resident, they would step into the lift car, they would badge at the reader, and that would then enable the buttons for the floors that they have access to for a brief period. They then make their selection, and then obviously the lift begins to move to their destination. For a visitor, it's slightly different. So imagine you're a resident on one of the floors, and you have a visitor buzz at the intercom at the front door of the lobby. So after making sure that you want them in, you press a button on your intercom in your apartment, and that unlocks the front door so that the visitor can gain entry to the lobby. And at the same time, that same button press also lights or enables the button on the lift car that allows that visitor to go through the lobby, enter the lift car, and press that enabled button to get to the resident's floor. So obviously that button is enabled for longer than if you're a resident or employee. So those are the two use cases, the way it works for residents and employees, and then for visitors. And then just to your question about which model we support. So we absolutely do support the model of the reader in the lift car being what determines the destination control. And what that means is that we don't support the model of readers at every floor calling the lift. And that's for security reasons, as you said. And it is because, imagine if you had multiple users all badging to call the reader to their floor, and they all have different access rights. Then, immediately they badge, the floors they have access to, those buttons light up, and you could have a situation where every button in the lift is enabled, and it remains enabled until they step into the car and make their choice.
So you have no control of who's getting out on whatever floor it is.
Exactly. So it's a real security problem.
So we've got another short video that's ready, and we'd like to play it. It goes through quite a nice use case of typically how lift control would work. So we're going to play the video, sit back and enjoy.
Introducing lift control in Primo 2026.2. Lift control is a specialized access control solution that manages and restricts lift usage, ensuring that only authorized individuals can access specific floors. There are multiple use case scenarios in which lift control can be implemented. In this example, we will examine the use case of residential apartments. In our use case, Bob is a resident in a multi-story residential building, Lifestyle Apartments. Lifestyle Apartments is a building with 3 below-ground parking floors and a ground floor lobby area. The rest of the floors have several apartments per floor, and the top floor has a gym which some residents have access to. The building has 2 lift shafts. One lift provides access to the lower floors, the parking floors, and up to floor 11 including ground floor. The second lift is for the upper floors, floor 12 to floor 18 including ground floor. We have already configured the lift for the upper floors. So let's see how easy it is to add the lift for the lower floors. Click Add to start the lift creation wizard. The lift is named lower floors. The lift is in the lifestyle building that we have already created. Our starting floor is -3 for the below ground parking, and the last floor for this lift is 11. Select the floors that you want the lift to stop on. Any floors not selected will be bypassed. Select the reader which is mounted in the lift car, which Bob will present his credential to enable buttons for the floors he has access to. Choose the I/O devices that will be used for the lift destination control. This step shows which I/O device controls which floors and how many of its relays are in use. You can use the arrow controls on the left to change which devices are mapped to which floors. The lift creation wizard automatically creates floor groups for every floor. One floor group for all floors serviced by this lift and an access profile containing the full access floor group. This auto creation makes user access configuration much easier. You can choose not to auto create one or more of these elements. Review the summary and go back to adjust if necessary. Click Submit to create the lift. The lower floors lift was successfully saved. Now that our lifts are created, let's assign Bob his access rights. Bob is already enrolled and a resident of an apartment on the 11th floor. All 11th floor residents have access to parking level 2 and the lobby. Bob also happens to have access to the gym on the top floor 18. To assign Bob his access rights, we could add each element individually. A better way would be to use an access profile and add anything that falls outside of the profile separately. Let's add an access profile called Floor 11 Residents. We need to add the access groups to gain entry to the lobby entrance and the parking. We also need to add the following floor groups: parking level 2 and ground floor lobby from the lower floors lift, and floor 11. Submit the floor 11 residents access profile to save it. Now there is an access profile ready to be assigned to all floor 11 residents. Let's add Bob's access permissions by going to the Access tab on his record. Navigate to Access Profiles to manage the profiles that Bob will be assigned. Add the Floor 11 Residents profile. Submit the changes to save them. Bob now has access to floors 11, parking 2, and lobby. But Bob also has access to the gym on floor 18, so this floor has to be added separately. Going to the Floor Group sub-tab and using the Manage button, we can add floor 18 from the upper floors lift for Bob's gym access. Residents don't automatically belong to the gym, which is why we can't add this floor to the floor 11 residents access profile. We have to add it separately as a floor group instead. Click Submit. That takes care of Bob's access to all the floors he needs, as well as access to the lobby area and to the parking booms. We have now assigned Bob his access rights. He can gain entry to the lobby through the front door. He can also get through the parking boom and park at his designated spot on parking 2. From parking 2 or the lobby, he can access the lower floors lift to reach his apartment on floor 11. All this access is defined in the floor 11 residents access profile. Bob can also get to the gym on floor 18 using the upper floors lift.
Welcome back. Before we move on to our next headline feature, let's just handle a couple of questions that have come through on the Q&A. The first one, Primo Readers, do they support Google and Apple Wallet?
So, Gavin, that development is currently in flow. So it's due for release this year. I don't have an exact date yet, but certainly that's mid-flow. We're already busy with it.
And then there's the second question relating to the lift control. The features available in this release of Primo, will they be adapted also to kind of be incorporated into Access Portal as well?
So Gavin, no, this feature is going to be exclusive to Primo. It's in part a firmware feature, but it's also in part a software feature. And so this offline implementation of lift control is going to remain a Primo feature, and it's a reason to consider upgrading. We really are getting very close to that maturity, and so it's a good reason to have another hard look at Primo.
Thanks, Hamish. So let's look at our next headline feature, and that is the Microsoft Entra integration. So Hamish, firstly, Microsoft Entra is a bit of a tongue twister for me. Help me with this. What is Microsoft Entra firstly? I believe it is what we previously referred to as Active Directory. And how does this relate to Primo?
Right. So firstly, you could think of Entra ID as a digital gatekeeper, making sure that any users attempting to access business softwares, apps, and files are indeed who they claim to be. And then how it relates to Primo is that we have, this release of Primo has an integration with Entra ID, and so any Primo users can gain the benefit of that integration.
And what are those benefits? Why would somebody want to use it?
Okay, so that's a couple of answers in one. So for starters, talking about the benefits of Entra ID, it's centralized, identity management, and so you can use a single sign-on, to access all of the business software, including the Primo access control. So what how painful it is when you've got a bunch of different business applications, and each of them has their own password that you have to recall. Each of them has their own set of password policies, so you're forever being confronted with another password that needs to be updated. It just gets in the way of efficiencies, And also it's a security problem, because people get into bad habits trying to keep track of all of these passwords and have them on unprotected, listed on unprotected files and things like that. So it really is a security problem. So efficiencies and security problems for the staff that have to access those business apps, but then also for the IT team, they're responsible for the security within the business and for combating cyber attacks. And, so there's this overhead that they have to handle, coping with all of these different password policies and coping with endless requests for password resets and all those horrible things. And so for a far more efficient approach, Entra ID gives that single sign-on. All the identity is managed centrally. If somebody leaves the business, they are removed from one identity provider, and it affects all business softwares. So you don't have people having unauthorized access once they've left the company.
So Entra ID sounds quite similar to LDAP integration, which we've previously released. I'm guessing it's not the same, so maybe if you can just run through the differences.
Look, it is pretty similar. They do the same job, but Entra ID has multiple advantages over LDAP. So the first of them being that it's a cloud-based solution. So with LDAP, you have to be on the network where the LDAP service is running to gain the benefit of it. Whereas, because Entra ID is cloud-based, you can log in from wherever you are in the world, and you can access the business applications that you need to. So that's one benefit, and then there also are some security features that are available in Entra ID which aren't available on LDAP. So things like multi-authentication, and then checking things like, are you logging in from the location that you normally would? Are you logging in from a known device? are you logging in using a secure network, you know? So it's able to do all of those checks as well.
And then from a permissions perspective, you know, obviously from an operator level, we can assign different roles to people logging into the software. Can we do the same with Entra ID?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason is that not only have we integrated with Entra ID, we also support the Entra ID groups function. And so what you can do is you can set up, you know, groups of employees like, you know, people involved with enrollment, people who need to access reports, people who do installations. And you create those groups in Entra ID, and then you are able to map those groups to roles within Primo, such that when somebody accesses the Primo software with their single sign-on account, when they log in, they are provided with the rights that they should have, you know. So if they've logged in with this, you know, and they belong to an enrollment group, then they will have the rights that are associated with site enrollment role in Primo.
So we've got another video queued up. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make about Entra ID before we move over to the video?
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, you know, an improvement that, you know, just makes, tightens up the security on Primo. Security really should be a key focus for any of our end customers out there. And so this is just one more way that Primo has tightened up on that security.
Thanks, Hamish. Let's take a look at the video in Microsoft Entra ID.
Introducing single sign-on authentication integration using Microsoft Entra in Primo 2026.2. Single sign-on or SSO is a key enabler of security and efficiency in today's market, allowing users to access multiple systems with a single set of credentials. It reduces password fatigue, lowers support overhead, and streamlines user management. By centralizing authentication, SSO enhances security, simplifies integration across platforms, and supports scalable, user-friendly system environments. Before linking Entra logins to your Primo, ensure you have the necessary SSO license linked to your Primo software license. The first step is to set up the Entra ID system account within Primo to link the two systems together. Log in using a normal Primo administrator account. Navigate to System Accounts in Primo and select the Identity Provider option. There are multiple options to choose from, including Google Sign-In. In this case, we are selecting Microsoft Entra. The details necessary to complete the Entra ID account link in Primo can be provided by the IT department overseeing the Entra ID system. After the account information is complete, you can test the account to ensure the Entra ID system is correctly linked to the Primo system. The next step is to create an Entra ID admin operator in Primo using Entra without any groups. This user needs to already exist within the Entra ID system. The Logins list view under Operators will show the standard Primo administrator account that is currently logged into the Primo software. From here, you can add the new operator account. To add an operator account associated with the Entra ID system, select Identity Provider Radio button. Then enter the details that are associated with the Entra ID account for the new operator and save. The details should match what is captured in the Entra ID system for this operator. Once saved, this operator account is active, and the new operator can log into Primo using the single sign-on username and password combination that they use for other business software that also supports Entra ID. You can continue to add operators with Entra ID single sign-on and set their role within the Primo software. However, it is possible for the Primo role to be linked in Entra ID as well, using the Groups feature of Entra ID. This means that when an operator logs into Primo using their Entra ID credentials, the Entra ID system is also determining what role they are assigned in the Primo software. To do this, you have to be logged into Primo using an Entra ID linked account and the Primo role of System Owner or Administrator, just like the Entra ID account we have created. This is because the Administrator account has permission to work with Entra ID groups within Primo. From the login page, select the Windows icon to log in with your newly created Primo Administrator account. The Microsoft Entra sign-in will prompt you for your login details. To have the Entra ID system determine the operator role, when they log in, the first step is to map Primo operator roles to Entra ID groups. Navigate back to the system accounts and select Identity Provider. Go to the Identity Provider Groups tab. Select the Manage button to map the Entra ID groups to the Primo operator roles. Let's map a receptionist role. Search for the Entra ID receptionist group. Select the Primo permissions for this group. In this scenario, it is site enrollment. Additional notes can be added to describe and identify the group. In the summary page, confirm the relevant details and submit. Your identity group will now display under the Provider Groups list view, with the associated permissions. Now that we have linked the Primo and Entra ID systems and mapped the Primo roles to Entra ID groups, we can create all the necessary Primo operator logins. From the Operators list view, we can add a new receptionist operator who will be given Entra ID group rights associated with the site enrollment Primo role. For this operator, we can now select the identity provider with Group's radio button and enter their Entra ID details. Here is the new receptionist operator whose site enrollment role will be enforced by Entra ID when logging into Primo. Logging into Primo with this new operator account, it is clear that the permissions are restricted to the site enrollment role. Thank you for watching as we went through the setup and configuration for the Primo Entra integration.
Great video. So we're coming towards the end of this webinar, and we've had a look at the sort of the two key headline features, but there are a couple of noteworthy small updates that we can maybe talk a little bit about. Hamish, do you want to run through them?
Yeah, so the first one that I want to mention is just we've made an improvement to the event notifications feature. So what we do now is for every email with an event notification, we add or append the details of the source of that event onto that email notification. So that is a benefit of knowing the details of the event source allows you to respond faster and more appropriately to the threat. So that's the first one. The second one to mention is that we have introduced a default password feature, and what that is that you can now enforce a password change whenever a controller is logged into in Primo. So you don't have to do that. So at installation time, you're given a choice of whether you want to enforce this feature or not. So if you don't, it just continues to work as it currently does. If you do choose to enforce this feature, then whenever you attempt to log into any of the controllers for the first time, it will demand a password change and it won't allow you to use a default password. So that's the second one. And the last one that I want to mention is that Primo now has an integration with Milestone. And that integration pretty much mirrors the same one that we did with Access Portal. So just to run through a couple of the benefits of that, with an integration between a video management solution and an access control system, the benefit, there are a few benefits. You link a door to a camera, and then events occurring on that door can, result in or trigger multiple actions, in the video management solution, perhaps on the camera or cameras associated with that door. You can also see live feed as well. And then the other benefit is that the video stream is being indexed with access control events. And why that is of benefit is that when you retrospectively come to investigate a security event, it is so much easier to do because you've got this access control event indexed video stream as opposed to scrolling through reams and reams of video, video recording. You can go to specific events and just check things, what happened at those events.
Good. And am I correct in saying that this integration is fully endorsed by Milestone?
Yeah, so actually that is perhaps a difference, is that this integration with Milestone and Primo is endorsed by Milestone. So if you go onto their website, you will see the Impro endorsing of Milestone integration.
Thank you, Hamish. So that brings this webinar to a close, and I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the audience for joining us. We know that you guys all have very busy days, so we appreciate you taking the time to join us. Also, just like to thank my co-hosts today and the Impro team working behind the scenes to make all of this possible. So we've answered questions on the Q&A. If we haven't gotten to your question, we won't forget about you. We will make sure to answer you after the course of this webinar. But if you do have any other comments that you'd like to make, feel free to send us an email. Our email address is info@impro.net. And I'd also just like to remind the audience that if you haven't perhaps been able to watch the whole webinar, we will put a recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel. And also on the YouTube channel, we'll also put all the videos that we've shown today. So if you'd like to have another look at our Primo Reader range, or the new lift control or Entra ID, all of those videos will be uploaded on YouTube. So again, just like to take the opportunity to thank everyone. Wish you all a great rest of the afternoon, and we'll see you soon for the next webinar. Thanks all.